There's a public outcry for people who want a better planet,
and there are powers that be that let the people panic.
Look at the Gulf of Japan, could they have really planned it? Heading for the iceberg like the Titanic.
Atlantic mystery, Atlantis white from history. The truth about the pyramids in ancient Mayan prophecy.
Space Odyssey, look into the anomalies, and you will find suppression of free energy technology.
A false democracy born out of a monopoly. Sacred knowledge robbery like the towers they toppling.
Oh, wow, I just love that song, Ramon. That's Free Energy by the Luminaries. We are recording this on April 14th of 2014, and it's actually quite an interesting day astrologically, things that are happening, and just amazing we have this guest on with us tonight. So it should be an awesome show, guys. You're with Tom and Ramon in the 100th Monkey Radio. And Ramon, what's been going on, man?
Let's see. Everything's going pretty good. Nice sunny day. I got a couple of news things, but before I do that, just want to let you know that you can check us out on Facebook, Vimeo, YouTube, and telepathically.
Oh yeah, and iTunes and whatever other Podbean, iTunes, all those other places like that. It gets out there.
Okay, so I'm gonna start off with some news that I have here. I have the mother of all antioxidants. I'm just gonna read some of the things. Yeah, this is called glutathione. Yeah, I don't know how to pronounce that. Sorry.
You're gonna have to read the article to get the real word.
Oh, the article is here. I was just gonna go through.
No, I was telling the audience, Ramon, they're gonna need to read the article to get the real word.
I'll just read where this is at, and this is a high antioxidant. Broccoli, Brussels sprouts, cabbage, cauliflower, avocado, peaches, watermelon, cinnamon, cardamom, turmeric, tomatoes, peas, garlic, onions, and red peppers. You can find this in this very high antioxidant.
Sounds like my vegetable garden.
Yeah. Yeah, and I love me some cinnamon. So here's another one. 8 vegetables that you can regrow again and again. And now I'll just go through the list. Scallions. Most of these you put them in a cup of water and they regrow. Garlic. So, you know, when your garlic starts growing those sprouts, you can just put them in some water and they'll keep growing.
Just throw them in the dirt too.
Yeah, throw them in the dirt. Let's see, the next one is bok choy. One of my favorites. Carrots, you take the tops and put them in water, and you can only use the green part for like salad and stuff. It's saying basil. Take the clipping off the basil.
Really?
Yeah. Put it in water, and once it grows, throw in dirt afterwards. Celery. Take the bottom part when you cut off, and then put that in water, and it'll regrow. Then next we have romaine lettuce. That one, let's see.
It's the same thing as celery. You'd use that the same way as celery.
Okay, next one, cilantro, which I didn't know. Put it in some water and then put in some dirt after it grows a nice thick root. And that's it for that one. And then the last news article I have, and most of these are from Spirits and Science, and I forgot the other news place. Okay, so 8 signs you may experience a spiritual awakening. Maybe experiencing a spiritual awakening.
Oh, this ought to be good.
You're more in touch with your spiritual foundations through transformative meditation. You're beginning to want more freedom and less stuff. Number 3, you realize that the door to your prison cell is wide open and always has been. Number 4, the world is a playground and you are on recess. I like that one. Number 5, You have acquired the counterintuitive practice of relishing in your mistakes. That's one you should like, Tom.
Oh, hush, Ramon.
Number 6, you have an overwhelming feeling of being connected with others and nature. Number 7, you understand that the journey is indeed the thing. Number 8, you rather be slapped with the truth and kissed with a lie. So those are 8 signs that you are.
Those pretty good stuff. Pretty good stuff.
So we have a lot of stuff going on in the sky. You know, we have this Grand Cross, full moon, some blood moons. I don't know what else is happening up there in the sky.
We got a lunar eclipse tonight and a solar eclipse coming up on the 29th.
On the 29th?
There's just a ton happening in the skies right now. And, you know, in light of that, and also in light of all the things that are happening on the planet, I mean, geez, just turn on the news and or surf the web for a few minutes. You'll see that this place is definitely rocking and rolling right now, and there's a lot going on, both socially and geologically. I mean, the Earth is rumbling and tumbling and storms and, geez. It's just all over the place. So in light of all this, we decided it was high time we brought Jeff Harman back on the show. Jeff Harman, if you guys don't know, he's been an astrologer for more than 3 decades, utilizing a variety of systems, including traditional or classical Western astrology, Vedic astrology, Kabbalistic astrology, and Astro-Location Astrology. I'm sure he dabbles in quite a few others, too, that aren't listed on here. But Jeff has spent 10 years in Beverly Hills and has a remarkable client base and databank of thousands of case studies. Jeff's spoken for ForIONS, MUFON, and the Joshua Tree Retreat Center, and the Association of Celebrity Personal Assistants. He's been a guest on quite a few of those shows out there, the Coast to Coasts, the Veritases, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, and on ours once already. His website is www.jrman.com. So I want to welcome Jeff Harman back to the 100th Monkey Radio. Welcome back, Jeff.
Well, thank you.
Oh, man, you know, there is so much going on the planet right now. And, I mean, when I look out at our society and you know, you watch the news and surf the web and see all the stuff that's going on the planet right now, I'm just like, oh my God, this place is rocking and rolling and moving. We're getting a lot of stuff that is coming up right now. And we figured this was the opportune time to see what's happening in the skies and see if this stuff, what's happening on the planet right now, is actually up there, in figuratively up there, you know. Around us, however we want to describe that. So Jeff, I want to look at actually particularly right now, and this will be interesting to listen to when this airs on Sunday, because this will already have transpired. This blood moon stuff that's going on tonight. What's up with that? I mean, what kind of things can we expect out of that sort of a configuration in the sky?
Well, that's a good question. Eclipses are interesting phenomena. They've been observed for thousands of years. This is a series, they call it a tetrad. And I don't know if you've heard about this, but basically what they're saying is a tetrad, of course, means 4. And there's a series of 4 of them. We have the one that's tonight, which is the full moon, which is called a lunar eclipse. And then we have another one here coming up this October. I'm sorry, no, it'll be, yeah, that's right. It'll be October 8th of 2014. And then we have another one that's coming up the March 20th of 2015. We have another one that's coming up September 13th. Yes, is that correct? Yes, it's in September of 2015, so it's 4 of them. And I believe technically it's the 28th of 2015.
So
But,
are four of them like within two years with two? Is that unusual?
Well, it is. It's happened before, but what's even more unusual about it is that they're happening right on the Passover, at the beginning of the Passover, and they're also happening on the fall equinox, which in the ancient Hebrew religion, of course, a lot of people call it Jewish religion now, it is definitely happening right on the high holidays. So what's interesting about all this is there's a lot of people saying something's going to happen with Israel. And when I look at what's happening in the world, I wouldn't be surprised.
Right.
Now, that doesn't mean tonight we're going to see mushroom clouds. What I find with eclipses, and most astrologers have found, is that eclipses become hot points in the sky, and when they're triggered by aspect. Now, we got some really interesting stuff going on. You had mentioned earlier the Grand Cross, but there's also Mars is retrograde. And this Grand Cross sits up against the United States chart in a very interesting and precarious way. There's actually the retrograde Mars is conjuncting the U.S. Saturn. We've also got the Pluto is opposing the U.S. Sun, and Jupiter squares it. So the Grand Cross in the sky, and Uranus is in there too. And I don't think it's a stretch to say that we've been hearing on the real news networks that there's a lot going on with Russia, China, the BRICS nations, the financial world, and everything seems to point to that. So I would say these eclipses get triggered in May through July. And that's a powerful thing.
Yeah. So what does astrology kind of set down a sort of a fact that, or does it like a predestined thing? Will it tell you that something is going to happen?
If you ask a question, that's an ancient astrology called interrogation astrology. And interrogations is literally divinational. If you ask a specific question, you can see the likely outcome. Some people have accused that of predicting the future. It's actually not predicting the future. It's predicting probable outcomes based on current situations. And like, for instance, I don't know if you're asking, is this all destined to happen?
Right. I guess I was looking at, all this stuff with Israel and the U.S., being
the whole
pretty, yeah. We've got some pretty harsh aspects out there right now. And so I guess I'm just saying or asking, does the configuration and the aspects the way they are, does it kind of denote that there's going to be something traumatic that happens on the planet in this period? Or is it somewhere more along the lines of just that the energies are right for something to happen, and it's up to us on how we deal with it?
Well, thank you. That's well put, because I like that, because that is kind of my philosophy. I like the name of your show, 100th Monkey Syndrome. If we could all change our conscious self-awareness, I think the astrology would have less of an effect. Why astrology seems to be so accurate, and it usually is because people usually react in somewhat predictable ways. You were mentioning before, does this have to happen? No, it doesn't. But humanity tends to keep acting in a lot of ways, and I'm talking about the people who are in power. The world's changing right now. Everyone's been hearing about the New World Order for many, many years, and they're lurking around in different ways and maybe under different guises. But I really think that there is a concerted effort right now to try and join the world economies in such a way where it can be run from central places, and it kind of is already. It has been that way. And I think if we get certain nations going against a unified financial global system, that's where the trouble runs.
Right.
And that's kind of what happened in World War II. And some believe it was also with World War I. And, you know, we get a little taste of what happened over there in Crimea. They didn't want, you know, there's a lot more to Crimea than meets the eye. I heard a lot of stuff went on there, and basically Russia stepped in and stopped it. They didn't want them becoming ingrained into the European Union.
Right.
And Russia and China are clearly making moves right now, even though they're dependent. The interesting thing is the astrology shows this is what would be happening. And there's a bigger picture, too, and you and I had talked about this before, Tom. The one that most astrologers are not citing, they're correct about the Grand Cross right now, but there is, in my opinion, a larger system or an older system, which is called the Great Conjunctions. And that one is really, I believe, the page turner, the chapter marker in civilization. And the last one that we had was in the early 1700s, which ushered in the Industrial Revolution. And it's safe to say the world has changed an awful lot in the last few hundred years.
Just a bit.
You know, and the next one is exactly on the winter solstice of 2020. So this Grand Cross, all these eclipses fit like a Russian babushka doll inside of what I think we're marching towards, and that is a whole new era by 2020. And I don't think, you know, the day of the winter solstice of 2020, the world's going to end. I think we're entering a new era. The question is and this is kind of what, you know, you were alluding to, and it's a very intelligent question, Tom, is does it preclude we have to have more war, turmoil, and mayhem? I say no, but it usually equals that because many people stay rooted in their paradigms of reality, and therefore the consciousness doesn't shift, and therefore maybe the energies have to play themselves out.
Right.
It's almost like the as me and Tom like to say, the proverbial 2x4 that humanity seems to always need.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's a good
But
one, yeah.
you know, you're mentioning 2020, and the first thing that popped up into my head, what would change things dramatically? And I thought right away the quantum computer. Even though we have it now, it's still not in full use, and it's only really like NASA and Google that own it.
I think it has to be a lot of things, Ramon, besides just the computer.
But
and you know what? There's so many things right now converging. I mean, if you look back in the 1700s, mass production was on the rise, metallurgy was on the rise, electricity got discovered, you know, on and on. And that's where we're at now. I personally think no matter what happens over these next few years, because we only got about 5.5 years, and we're at 2020, and because we're already, you know, in the late spring, it's April 14th, so we've got about literally 5 years, 8 months left, and ticking, before we hit this. And I don't think it's just that day. I think we're converging on a super high-tech world. And if you look at biomechanics, you look at everything that's out there, from computers to quantum physics to manufacturing. I mean, it's already right on the horizon. I think we're going to see the roaring 20s, and we may begin to see life like they predicted back in the 50s, look like the Jetsons, coming up here in the next 34 years.
That would be fun. Yeah. So do you think we'll find a what's it look like for the planetary monetary system, finding something with some level of integrity that everybody's able to adopt? Because I think we have to go global on so many things, like especially our currency and our the way we exchange has to be global. for us to be successful as a society, I believe.
Well, I don't know. The only thing I can tell you is it really seems like change is here. And the astrology is telling us that this change is being forced upon the world. I think the biggest problem on the horizon is we have many of the nations out there polarizing against the petrodollar, and they're really questioning the quantitative easing and the constant printing of money. And Putin has come right out and said this. China has as well. I don't believe the West is just going to roll over and say, oh, geez, guys, you're right. And hopefully there'll be a compromise that's going to happen. And I think we're going to see this play out pretty soon. Between now and I would say there's a Uranus-Pluto square in play. We've already had 3 of them. Actually, no, we've had 4 of them. This is the 5th one. We have 7 total.
Wow.
Yeah, there's 7. It started September of 2012 was the first Uranus-Pluto square. Then in May 21st. Then it came back in November of 2013. Then we had a heliocentric square, which means it was not Earth-based, it was solar-based last November. And then the 5th geocentric it's right now. We're having the 5th one right now. And the 6th one will be this December 15th, and the final one is March 17th of 2015.
Wow.
These, they're very powerful, and every time these have happened, we've had strange weather patterns. This has happened before. The last real hard series, we had the Dust Bowl. There was all kinds of stuff going on with the economy. There was the crash of 29. So this whole series, every time I've gone back in history, almost a few hundred years, it's created havoc in the world. The structures that were in play always seem to crumble and have to be redone or reworked, and strange weather patterns. Look at the weather patterns we're having this year. They're over the top.
Oh, I know. Yeah. There's something
Last
else.
couple of years, we're setting records. I mean, they're still getting snow, and it's April.
Right,
We're going
right.
on May.
What happened to global warming?
Right. Global
Yeah.
crazy.
So what does that mean exactly? What is the planet doing exactly that what's the word? That you call it that?
Well, Uranus is squaring Pluto from what we call Earth's perspective. It's a geocentric aspect. And every time these happen, there's always mayhem. And we're in it right now. We've been in probably one of the longer series of them of probably the last century. This is pretty profound. And then I think the fact that we're marching to this 2020 conjunction, and let me be clear about the 2020 conjunction. What that means is, see, Saturn and Jupiter join in a sign every 20 years. So that's not unique. What is unique is Saturn and Jupiter join in the first, what we call Egyptian bound of Aries, almost every 1,000 years. And then they make this like Star of David in the elements, meaning earth, air, fire, and water. Well, the next, about every 240 years, it's not exact, but pretty close, it changes elemental triplicity, and we're moving into an air series on the winter solstice of 2020. And what does air mean? Technology, psychozoic, the mind, etc. The problem is are we going to be able to get there between now and then without either financial mayhem or some diplomatic solution not being able to be reached? I don't know. It's certainly, there's a lot of saber rattling going on right now.
Interesting time to be on good old planet Earth.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, Jeff, does the age of Aquarius come in anywhere in your work?
Yeah. You see, now the age of Aquarius, there are many people who say we're in it already.
Right.
And I'm not here to disagree or discredit them. But what that is, I had showed you a diagram when we were talking before, Tom, about our solar system is rocketing around the central sun. Some people call it Alcyon. There's different pronunciations, but that's what I call it. And it's also known as the central sun. And even NASA concedes, and many astronomers agree, that we are orbiting, meaning our whole solar system, our sun, is going around the central sun. And it's somewhere around 26,000 years average that we go around it, but no one's 100% sure. And in fact, our sun is going so fast, NASA puts it somewhere around 483,000 miles an hour. They say it actually is so fast that our planets aren't just orbiting the sun, they're kind of spiraling behind it in orbit. And then, obviously the moon is doing almost Mach 2.5 around the Earth. The Earth is doing almost just short of 70,000 miles an hour around the sun. And of course, we're doing an average of about 1,600 miles an hour on axis. And it never, ever seems to change. It's pretty astounding. And even the angle of the Earth. So it's very magical what's happening. And gravity does not explain a lot of these things, particularly the Earth's axis. Why I'm telling you all this is because nobody's sure exactly when we get into Aquarius. There's a lot of different theories. My opinion is it's about 300 and something years from now, though I think we're on the cusp of it, meaning we're within this melding zone, this transitional 5 degrees. And, again, there's a lot of people who might argue with me, and I honor everyone's free will.
Well,
but
even with those that believe we're already in the age of Aquarius, I don't really see too much of an issue. Even if we thought that the age of Aquarius didn't start for 300 more years, we're already beginning to feel the influences of that age.
We are.
Yeah.
But then look at the world. It's not all love and light.
Right. We're not. I agree. We're not there yet.
Right. I wish it was, but it's not.
Yeah.
Yeah. With us going that fast is, I'm always amazed by that, because it's, you can sit here and feel like you're not moving or doing anything. It's unbelievable. But going back to some of the things like with the U.S. and what are you seeing for the U.S. and how is that affecting it?
Well, in a Vedic astrology, there's something called the doshas. They're actually called planetary periods, and the United States is actually in a Mars dosha right now, and it shows that it's a pivotal time right now for this country. And I really hope, again, I know the IMF is working on a lot of solutions. See, this all comes back to the petrodollar. The petrodollar has basically been the way that people trade energy on the earth, meaning oil. And even though we know there should be free energy, in general, if you're going to buy oil in the world markets, you have to convert or hold U.S. dollars, petrodollars, in order to do that. And back in the 70s, Nixon took us off the gold standard and put us on the petrodollar. Well, right now, China and Russia have been flushing the U.S. Treasury bonds, and I'm getting this information from people a lot more knowledgeable than I am about finances. And I hear this huge glut of flushing of Treasury bonds. But what's even worse is they're taking our Treasury bonds and turning them into hard assets, primarily gold. They're buying huge amounts of gold and hard assets with the Treasury bonds that they're unloading. And the Fed has been soaking these up. And from what I've heard is in Europe, Deutsche Bank is like a silo right now of derivatives. London is in big trouble, the Bank of Scotland. Even though the U.S. dollar is still well into the 80%, some postulate between 81 and 85% traded, it's precarious, because if we get a banding together, which we're kind of already seeing with Russia and China have agreed to now trade oil in the yuan-based rather than the petrodollar-based. And we've got Brazil right on their heels. We've got India talking about the same thing, and Venezuela, and on and on. So, and again, if you look up the BRICS nations, it stands for Brazil, Russia, India, China, and I think it's South Africa. So it's happening as we speak. And
so is the yuan backed by gold? Do you know?
Yes, that's what they're saying. It's. I mean, I don't really know 100%. Only thing I know is what I'm getting from what I consider to be very reliable sources. But Putin has basically made overtures, scathing overtures, that, the U.S. and its Western allies are parasites living on, printed money. They're literally calling it fiat currency. Where we're at here in the United States is if there was a massive devaluation of the dollar or there was hyperinflation, it would affect our way of life tremendously. It would be horrific what would happen.
Yeah.
And hopefully this never happens.
Well, let me bring this into the whole fold because of all the things I've seen that's been happening with it. The whole craze with the Bitcoin and also cryptocurrency. For example, Iceland switched over to cryptocurrency called the Aurora coin. And, Bitcoin now, you can actually buy houses and boats with them. There was like a really big sale of a $600,000 house in Bali just using Bitcoins. Do you see that affecting it, or you haven't looked at it?
Well, I do, and I do see it affecting it. This is the whole point I'm talking about. Is this Grand Cross? I think is a trigger because it hits the U.S. so powerfully, and then these eclipses. There's no question Israel is very closely joined at the hip with the United States, and even though it may seem like it's not, it is. And I think the entire European NATO/Western financial system is polarizing right now against the BRICS nation and the other parts of the world. And the question is how will this all integrate? And the real answer is, will it go smoothly or will it not?
Right.
Into a transition. One of the leveling equations, in my opinion, is the fact that nobody is going to win a war. It would be so devastating if anybody really started going after one another. And that may be what causes diplomatic and political solutions to be arrived upon. And I hope and pray, as well as I hope everyone else does, that is what happens. But we're in it right now. And I think these eclipses, which are happening between now and basically next year, are going to cause a lot of triggers to be excited. And, I'm not an alarmist. I don't like to predict, a lot of people are predicting the end of the world. This is it. This is the rapture. Jesus is coming. It's all over. How much have we heard that with Planet X,
right,
with the Mayan calendar, which, I went on record a couple of years ago. Everybody asked me what the Mayan calendar going to do. I said, not much. I can't come up with a thing. And nothing did. Well, let me pinch myself. Yep, I'm still here. So, and this one is a tough call. See, if somebody calls me up in a session and says, hey, should I marry so-and-so, or will she marry me, or is it in my best interest to do something? Astrology really kicks on that. But when you're talking about global mass, 7 billion souls, it's a little more divine than just, will we all destroy ourselves? I get it's going to be maybe a little bit of both. It's going to be some real tug of war that may or may not be real publicized, but sooner or later we're going to get through it. That's what I get.
Right.
I get, yes, it's tough, but will it be completely devastating? No.
So here's another view at this. What about positive aspects and placements in the sky right now for the U.S.? What have we got up there that is saying this is good stuff to work on right now?
Well, the fact that Jupiter is exalted, meaning, and that's in a tropical zodiac, that actually means almost like a divine intervention. And that's what I'm praying for. You know, what's fascinating about the ancient astrology, it's not just sun sign, you know, everyone is not just their sun sign. The ancient zodiac, you can actually get your guardian angel from your birth chart, and you see that this isn't just planets. You and I talked about that before, Tom. I always say if you want the real matrix, you know, not to demean the movie, but forget Neo, Trinity, and Morpheus, this might be the real one. And that the astrology isn't just a bunch of planets, it's maybe energies that are on a much higher dimension, angels, spirits, and intelligences, and quite divinely so. And I don't believe there's always something that stops the horrific predictions. You know, I've literally talked to military guys who've said, you know, we saw orbs around the, you know, installations, and then afterwards the nukes didn't work. We had to go in and replace circuit boards, or they were mysteriously taken out. I don't know if you ever heard of left at Eastgate in Europe.
Yeah.
You know, so there's always this thing that's making it less horrific. If you remember, not more than a year ago, my God, everybody was telling me, oh, Jeff, there's going to be 70-pound meteors crashing through the ceiling, you know, Planet X and Nibiru, it's all coming, it's going to be over, buy your food, buy your ammunition, you know, get your LED flashlight. And I just couldn't, I kept saying, I'm not seeing it. I would cast charts. See, there's a type of astrology you can actually cast a chart on a rumor or a report, and those I really go by. When somebody tells me the world's going to end or LA's crashing into the ocean next month, I always cast a chart, and I look at it, and you can see in a divinational way whether or not it's probable of happening.
Right.
And I keep getting, we're going to get through this better than not. I just cast a chart when we were talking earlier and was kind of looking at what you guys were saying is, you know, is this going to be horrific? And I get, no, it's going to turn out better than we think.
Yeah.
Yeah, you've heard me say that quite a few times, haven't you, Ramon?
Yeah. You know, that reminds me of, are you able to cast a chart, like, for example, you know, everybody's waiting when we're gonna have like true, completely open like UFO disclosure.
So is that something you're asking?
Yeah,
Will
if
there
you're
be full UFO disclosure soon? All right, so it's Ramon, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Ramon. So will there be? See, I just log these. So what I'm doing right now is I just literally cast a chart for the moment,
And voila.
Probably not. Not the way you're talking. It's more like it's been. People just keep bringing out evidence, and the government
keeps denying it.
It's a very elusive thing. I personally think
Yeah.
it may be a little closer to Men in Black than we think. And that's another reason why the world doesn't keep ending.
Right.
This place is divine. It really, really is. What I get is there may be more trouble. Mars is in the ascendant in this chart, and that if there is disclosure, it will be in a slow way. In other words, it won't be, all right, folks, mea culpa, we were wrong. You know, here they are. You know, march them out on the White House lawn. I'm not getting that. What I see in this chart is more, it just comes out as it has been and becomes more and more. I get there's a lot of malefic energy surrounding this.
So like chipping at the brick little by little.
Yeah. I mean, you look at, you know, like Lieutenant Philip Corso and so many others. You know, in Los Angeles for years. I mean, God, I lived over there for many years, and I would go with my wife Camille to the MUFON meetings, and there's some really credible people standing up there. These aren't just people, hey, I saw UFO. These are people, are in the military. They're people who well document things that there's some science behind it, and there's no question that the government doesn't want to come out and say, yeah, there's UFOs. And I'm not getting that here in this chart either. What I'm getting, there is going to be some more trouble, though, surrounding this. It's more like the people bring it out on their own.
Yeah.
So grassroots kind of.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, we've noticed an uptick in sightings this year since the beginning of this year, 2014. At least I have, anyways. I've noticed, probably I would have to say 30-40% uptick from what it was last year as far as the sightings that I'm seeing reported. So that's pretty significant.
I saw so much stuff in the 70s. I lived in northern Wisconsin, and I can tell you, man, I actually had a motorcycle that was completely electrically shut down, and the next morning it started right up.
Wow. Well,
I think you told us that story.
Yeah.
Yeah, you got close.
Yeah, I got real close. The thing there's something in the sky right now that I've been tracking. There is a light, and I thought at first it was a satellite, and you can tell it's not the same as a star. It is literally positioning itself constantly. In fact, I'm going to film the blood moon tonight, and I'm going to try and get that too, because I actually go out there with a Mitchell tripod and a geared head, and the only thing that's going to move that is the Earth, and that thing that's about 60 pounds tripod, so it doesn't move. You stick it in the ground, and there it sits. And I can tell you, this thing is moving, and I've been watching it for the better part of a month now. It literally hovers.
What part of the sky is it in?
It is, it depends on the time of night, but it goes towards the western, towards the southwest. And
Towards the
it's
southwest.
probably, it sets almost due west. At first I thought it was a satellite, but then I went, no way, because satellites, I've seen those. Those things rip by really fast.
About what time would you say it sets?
Well, at my latitude, because I'm in Tucson, Arizona,
right.
At my latitude and longitude, it would set probably around 2 a.m. in the morning now. And it's at the meridian, meaning overhead, but a little bit to the south by west, probably, it's a little south. And it's not much south. I'd say it's maybe 15, 20 degrees tops, maybe a little closer to 10 or 15 degrees from straight up. It's, in other words,
so it'll be about 20, 25 degrees from me.
Yeah.
So I was just trying to get an idea because I've got a pretty nice telescope set up, and might have to get out there myself tonight.
This thing is strange. I even brought my son out, who's got really good eyes, because I took him to the eye doctor not too long ago. And I said, do you see that moving? I even put my head up against the house to make sure it wasn't me. And, I mean, there's no question. This thing is hovering, and it's really hovering. And it's there every night. And none of the other ones are doing it.
Interesting.
So I'm actually going to shoot it.
I'll have to take a look. I've got all the charts and all that crap to be able to tell what it is. So if it's something that is just,
it's at zenith, or at my meridian, usually right around 11 o'clock at night. Now that'll change 4 minutes every day because we're moving around the sun, but it's about like that.
Okay.
You know what? I'll figure it out, and Tom, and then I'll email you.
Oh, okay. That sounds great. Thank you.
Yeah.
So Jeff, Western versus Vedic astrology. What do you like about? I mean, I know you're probably at least what I get from you is you lean towards the relying more on the Vedic astrology over
with people.
Western
I do,
stuff.
yeah.
What's the difference between them, and why do you prefer the Vedic?
Because the Vedic astrology uses a sidereal zodiac. It's actually using the zodiac that surrounds the central sun, not the tropical one. But it's more than that. It also uses a lunar zodiac, and it uses an integration between the sidereal system around the central sun and also the tropical system. But it looks at astrology totally different. There's Vedic astrology is kind of the pop term. The ancient method was called Jyotisha, and Jyotisha means the science of the light of the soul. And I really believe it is. It's quite old, and it looks at astrology completely different. Nobody is their sun sign. Nobody's a Libra, a Pisces, or a Scorpio, or an Aries. They're all just souls having a physical experience, and the astrology is not you, it's influencing you. And I think that alone, just that particular viewpoint, is so much more powerful. Bless Linda Goodman's heart and so many modern astrologers, it sells newspapers and books, but nobody is their astrology. Right. We're much bigger than that. We're souls having a physical experience. And the astrology is certainly powerful, and it's very accurate. But if we were all fated, just like you were mentioning before, Tom, if we were all fated to an outcome, well, there would be no free will at all.
Right.
And I have seen people who get what I call self-consciously aware of their astrology, and they change it. They may not totally take it away, but they will change it. And to me, the most powerful force in the universe is your consciousness. And the more you learn about your astrology, the more you find your consciousness can react in an appropriate way. It's like an airline pilot. Why did they, of course, we've had all this press on this 370 flight, but for the most part, let's admit, air travel's pretty darn safe.
Right.
And almost 99% of, probably more than that, 99.9999% of the planes that fly never have an issue. And if you're self-aware of the energies coming at you, I know I have a lot of clients that are airline pilots, and they tell me we are so well informed. We are constantly updated by radars, by computers, etc. We know what's happening where and when, particularly in the United States, some of the most advanced air traffic in the world. Well, the same thing goes with astrology. If you know what your conditions are, you're much more likely to consciously fly in your life with self-awareness in a different way than you would have had you not known it's there. So that's my point. Like, here's a good example. In location astrology, I've had people who live in very challenging places. They got businesses, they may have families, and they say, geez, now I know why it was always like that. And then I lean over and I say, yeah, but now you realize it isn't you. It's an energy you are experiencing. You're the experiencer. You're not the energy. And that changes the equation.
Right.
And because now you're reacting more with an alignment to what is affecting you. Same thing with transits. I've seen transits and progressions severely affect a place that one is living for both good and for ill, or any point in between. And oftentimes I'll get the question, well, geez, when's this going to end? Well, right here, In fact, I showed you, Tom, on the computer, you can actually see the animated lines moving on the map, and it's just like that. I mean, it's so accurate, it's creepy sometimes.
Right.
And like, I just had a really nasty malefic energy coming through here a couple of weeks ago. And I knew it was a Mars-Saturn progression. Now, Mars and Saturn makes you feel like you're beating your head against the wall. Except I said, you know what? I have some really intense stuff I need to get done, manual labor kind of stuff that I needed to get done on some equipment that I have. And that's when I undertook it, because I figured, well, hey, there's ever a time to roll up your sleeves and, get your hands dirty. This is it.
There you go.
You see, so there's nothing bad and good. If you use astrology with superstition, you're likely to get a superstitious result. If you use it with conscious awareness, well, you're going to get that result too. And the same thing goes for the world right now. If we, maybe there's enough forces causing everyone to pull their heads out of their bums and really come to a political diplomatic solution rather than just killing off half the human race, we'll be forced to move into a new era in a much better way. And that's what I'm praying, and I'm sure you guys are, but everyone else will too, because I really think thoughts matter, especially collective consciousness on the globe. Dr. Emoto, I'm sure you guys are well familiar, we discussed it before, where he's proven that prayers, thoughts, and energies can be frozen in water and photographed. Well, what he's really photographing is something that's been known for thousands of years. These are called samskaras in the Vedantic literature, and they're called thought form elementals in most of the Western traditions. In fact, the Egyptians were adept at this. They protected their tombs and the pharaoh's tomb with elementals. Well, we're creating elementals as a mass race all the time. The more we get into fear, the more we get into trepidation and buying food and ammunition to ward off the bag, the more elementals of fear we're creating. And, you know, to me, there's nothing wrong with buying food and stuff, but, I mean, I think if we all just take
it depends on whether or not it's being done by fear base.
Right,
You know.
there you go. Exactly. Well put.
Right.
Well put.
Right.
Right. There's nothing wrong with having, you know, being prudent, but yeah, living in fear and trepidation just creates more chaos.
Yeah. So, looking at the two main astrological traditions, the Western astrology and or tropical astrology and the Vedic astrology, would you say that the Western addresses more the physical, mundane aspects of life, and the Vedic goes into more the spiritual aspects of life?
Maybe with individuals, yeah. They both can look at it. They're both really complex systems. The true ancient tropical astrology, in my opinion, is really Babylonian and Egyptian, and nobody's really 100% sure which. There's no question Egypt was absolutely full of the ancient systems. And, you know, I get a lot of criticism sometimes by certain religious people. They say, oh, well, you know, this is the work of the devil and all that. And I'm like, really? Well, there's one rabbi. His name is Rabbi Ibn Ezra, E-Z-R-A. In fact, you can look in any Bible, and they will find that he is one of the main commentators on the Psalms. He's not the only one, but he's one of the main ones, and in the Old Testament. Now, here's a guy who was in the 12th century, in the 1100s, one of the most prominent court astrologers in Europe. He was in Italy, he was in England, France, Spain, all over the place, and yet he's a biblical commentator. And it's still there to this day, even in the King James version. So, you know, why I'm going there is because he used the tropical systems that primarily came up out of the Chaldean, Babylonian, and Egyptian systems. And in fact, in the 800s, there was a place called the House of Wisdom, which was not necessarily just one place, but it was a bunch of the old Arabian sultans sought to save this stuff. And they had it all translated into Arabic, and most of it was ancient Babylonian and Egyptian. And not all of it, but a lot of it. Some of it was Greek. A lot of people say the Greeks were the ones who came up with it, and I really don't think so. It really points back to Egypt, India, and the ancient world. There's no question. And in fact, we have proof of it in manuscripts that are coming out in droves right now.
Interesting stuff.
Yeah, it is.
Wow.
And I don't think you could place sidereal or Vedic higher than the ancient tropical. And there's a big difference between the ancient tropical astrology and the modern tropical astrology. Modern astrologers use Pluto for ruling Scorpio, Neptune for ruling Pisces, and, of course, Aquarius for Uranus. And you can't do that in the ancient systems, because if you do, you'll break the system. There's no placement whatsoever for those outer planets in rulership, though I will say I certainly use them in terms of aspects, but I still make them rule anything. And the reason why the ancient zodiac is inextricably linked to daytime, nighttime rulers, and there's a real magic there. Everything is the sun and the moon and the 5 planets from Saturn in. the two lights, and now you start getting real close to the ancient Vedantic stuff. It's all about spiritual souls having a physical experience. They never called anyone prior to the 1700s, and nobody got called a Pisces or an Aries.
Right.
Or, it just wasn't so.
Right. So what would I guess this is going to be an opinion I'm asking out of you now. What would be your favorite for addressing spiritual matters or the soul journey of a person? Do you prefer the Vedic over the Western astrology for that?
Yeah, the Nadi and the Jyotish is probably the first place I go, only because there's certain planetary combinations that are inherent in everyone's birth chart that are just amazing. It's so amazing. You can see what your parents were like. You could see what your home life was, why you were brought in. You can see past life stuff. You can see so many things. The biggest thing about Vedic astrology is it shows when changes happen. And they're called doshas. And they look at things much differently than Western astrology. Like when you have hard transits to the lights, meaning the sun and the moon, the sun is considered the seat of the ego, and the moon is considered the astral body, if you will, and Jupiter's the soul. And it's just a whole different world of astrology.
Right.
It's much broader.
Yeah. Well, for those of you out there listening, I did get a reading from Jeff here last week, and so I learned quite a bit about the Vedic astrology, and the doshas actually fascinate me. That's one area where I am beginning to dig into, and it's just absolutely phenomenal the way this stuff is laid out. And
it is. And they say that the ancient knowledge, it was derived through the rishis. The rishis were the seers. They literally had converse with angels. You see, I find the same thing in the Kabbalistic astrology, which, by the way, the Kabbalistic astrology is really, quote unquote, the ancient methods that are purported to have come up out of Babylonia, Egypt, and I think they were all one. I really do.
Right.
There's a lot of indicators that point that this was just very advanced knowledge, and it was, again, all about how do we escape from Alcatraz, which is what I refer to as our karma. Because if we could get out of the influences of the negative karmas that astrology shows, then we unlock the key. We escape from Alcatraz, and we become more enlightened. The problem with what I find is that the karmas are energies. It's just like in quantum physics. If you have vectors or a force coming at you, you have to either deflect, diffuse, step out of the way, And some people's karma is like a freight train, and some people's karma is like a breezy day. It really, and that's what I think Vedic astrology is so amazing, is it shows that. Like, I've had clients who have literally, I'll never forget, and I was in Beverly Hills many years ago, and I looked at this girl, and I said, oh, my God. I said, what happened to you? And the tears just flowed. She goes, you wouldn't believe it. I said, try me, I might. Her boyfriend and another guy were just put in prison for doing a satanic ritual on her. And I looked at the chart, and I went, wow. I said, that doesn't surprise me at all. I was going to say something close to that had to happen. And she had hit a debilitated Mars dasha, which was really malefically aspected. So the question is, was this destined to happen? Well, why did the chart show it? And then you see other charts where people, you just look at it and go, oh, my God, this is so wonderful. And sure enough, they're the CEO of a company, and they're doing wonderful things and healing or whatever they're doing.
Yeah,
it's all in the chart.
Yeah.
You can't make this stuff up.
I know. All right. So, Jeff, we burned up this first hour already. So we're going to take a break here, guys. And, Jeff, how can people get a hold of you if they want a reading?
The best way is email jeff@jeffharman.com. It's HARMAN.com. But, that's the best way, because my wife Camille does all the scheduling, and she's really good at it.
Yeah, fantastic stuff. Yeah, it was a very smooth transition, or whatever. Transaction, that's the word I was looking for.
Yeah.
Yeah, it all worked out really well. So I would urge you guys to pop over to jeffharman.com and take a look. And he's got a lot of information on his site too. So if you want to learn a little bit about the different types of astrology, that's a good starting point. Anyway, so. Okay, well, we're going to let free energy take us on out of here, and we will see you guys in the second hour. Condemnation without investigation is the height of ignorance.
The love you deny is the pain you carry.
Namaste, my friend.
Like the towers they topple in.
No stopping free.
J-Brain, Vito C.
Coming from the inner me.
Free energy.
The oil's running dry.
Our money's burning out.
Solar panels on the roof of the White House.
Hey, we bringing on some real change.
Water catchment systems.
We collecting rain.
Time to gather round. The moment's now. How will it all turn out? And from the crowd, be the one who's the meditation. It's time for free energy. Time for free energy.
Nikola Tesla perceived the earth as a conductor of acoustical resonance, and still his presence lives in the heart of visionary invention. Over 5,000 patents censored.
Researching 0-point energy, trying to get through delirium. The unified field theory of Nassim Harman, and every day we carry in the burden of our past. Water fuel cars, we no longer need the gas.
So many solutions right here in your face. Raw earth energy, create what rejuvenates. Green walls and green roofs, grow plants on everything. Magnetic movements, don't need gas for anything. Space sprockets, doing our own research, paying out of pocket. Bike powered stages, you pedal in our rocket. Fully access to techie knowledge. Green power over big profit. You can't stop it.
Ever think what the wars are fought for? Ever dream that the world could be more? I'll stand my life, our earth, one chance we could do it together. Ever think what the wars are fought for? Ever dream that the world could be more? I'll stand my life, I vow one day we could do it together. Oh, yeah.
The Renaissance, third industrial revolution. Invention is the language of a worldwide solution. The body electromagnetic, plasma arc reactor, stubble field, Kautsky frost. Free the knowledge lost.
Some people wait for 2012 to watch the earth shift, but in New Mexico they out there building earth ships. We got the language wrong, I got a new twist. The lifting of the veil, that's the true apocalypse.
Some see free energy as the enemy, but my genetic memory remembering that could never be. Thoughts float in the anti-gravity. A cubic foot of space can fuel the whole world annually.
You can choose a lover, hate, revolt, or maybe meditating. Every day we demonstrate so we can finally get it straight. Peace worldwide is the anthem that we celebrate. Free energy like the end of the movie Saint.
Time to gather round. The moment's now. How will it all turn out? And from the crowd.